It's the Unapologetic Gent, man. We are back. I'm here to discuss uh, the myth about players being Premier League proven and English tax on English players, man. It's crazy out here. A lot of transfer news to discuss, English players going in different places. And is Premier League proven a myth? Is it a real thing, man? Obviously, we have to discuss Declan Rice, 105 million from West Ham to Arsenal. And obviously, he's an English international. He's homegrown. He's an English player. An English tax. Mason Mount going to Manchester United from Chelsea for 60 million. Again, homegrown, English player, English international. And 60 million, was that too much? And for both of these players, I think they're both good players. I do think Rice makes Arsenal better. I do think that Mason Mount will improve the squad of Manchester United. Is he a starter? No. But the reality is, let's look at Declan Rice for 100. First and foremost, I don't know if anybody remembers when Alex Ferguson came out with his book, and he talked about how he only coached 4 world-class players, and he talked about how, guys who make goals, create goals, score goals. Now, do I think you can be world-class as a defender or holding defensive player? Yes, I do. But his point was that guys who create, score, and make goals is really what the game's about. So, in my opinion, paying 100 million for anybody who's not a creative force, even though I don't think Jack Grealish was worth 100 million, but he creates goals, score goals, makes goals. And obviously at the Aston Villa, he did it to a higher level. Pep's asked him to do something different. But for me, paying 100 million for a player like that, even Jude Bellingham going to Real Madrid, I think they overpaid. And one, if you're not a world-class player, you shouldn't be going for 100 million. 2, if you don't create goals, score goals, make goals, you shouldn't be going for 100 million. I do think Jude Bellingham is a much better talent than Declan Rice and much better going forward. And obviously, I think he's like 4 or 5 years younger as well. But English tax, that's where I'm at with it. Declan Rice, honestly, is Gareth Barry with a little bit better athleticism, but he's not as good on the ball as Gareth Barry was. And Gareth Barry was a very good player, English international, but never is a 100 million pound player, and never would be this overrated, honestly. Declan Rice is a good player, but this English tax is getting out of control. Mason Mount's a good player. He's never a 60 million pound player with a year left on his deal either. Harry Kane's the only $100 million player that's English, in my opinion. I get the Jude Bellingham we're overpaying for because potential and he's young and this, that, and the other, but I mean, Camavinga went for what, 40 million euros? He's a baller. Even Tchouameni went for what, 80? Like, this English tax stuff is crazy, man. Even like, I'm surprised that what's his name from Leicester, Madison only went for 40. And I think that's just because they were relegated. But in my opinion, he's a better player than Mason Mount, and he creates, scores, and makes goals, which in my opinion will make him more valuable than Declan Rice. Do I think Declan Rice moves the needle for Arsenal? Yes, he does. So I get why they overpaid for him, but English tax is real. And then the Premier League proven, it's interesting because, Arsenal also paid 65 million for Kai Havertz, who most people would say flopped in the Premier League. And then you have Yves Bissouma, who went to Tottenham last year from Brighton, who was Premier League proven and flopped. So I don't know, Premier League proven, in my opinion, is a myth, because if you look at the greatest ever players in Premier League history, and obviously English fans are going to bring up the Gerrards, the Scholeses, the Lampards and Wayne Rooney's and people like that. But in my opinion, those aren't the greatest players to ever play in the Premier League. The greatest players to ever play in the Premier League are Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Eric Cantona, Yaya Toure, Luis Suarez, people like that. Those guys weren't Premier League proven. So Premier League proven to me is an absolute myth. Rodri wasn't Premier League proven. Kevin De Bruyne and Mo Salah failed in the Premier League, left, came back. They weren't Premier League proven. And now they're two of the best players in the league. So this whole Premier League proven nonsense when people are buying players. Barella's available. He's cheaper than Declan Rice. He's a better player. Tchouameni or Camavinga, one of those guys from Real Madrid is probably available. Both better players than Declan Rice and Mason Mount. So Premier League proven, it's definitely a myth. The English tax is definitely real. I get it. Homegrown players are a commodity, this, that, and the other. But, like, you can just get more value for money in another league. You know, Ben White was never a 50 million pound player. So, yeah, the English tax is real. I think Premier League proven is an absolute myth. Doesn't mean anything. Even though I think Richarlison is a quality player, he was Premier League proven and flopped. So going from a team to a team doesn't. And then I'm hearing people saying Mason Mount is an upgrade on Fred. In what world? I'm confused. If you're someone who's and some people are saying Mason Mount is an upgrade is a better player than Rabiot. I'm confused because, in my opinion, the two hardest teams to get consistent caps for in the last 10 to 20 years are France and Brazil, right? Those are the two hardest teams to get consistent, and both of those players consistently get capped by those clubs. You don't get consistent caps from Brazil if you're not a good player. You might get an odd cap here and there if you're a wonder kid, like when Lucas came through when he was younger, but you've seen as he got older, he stopped getting caps. Fred starts and plays regularly for Brazil. So for anyone to tell me that Mason Mount's a better player, you're crazy. Mason Mount wouldn't get caps regularly for Brazil. He's barely getting caps for England. So this whole, people forget Pep Guardiola in Manchester City wanted Fred. So the disrespect that I see Fred getting is crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. He was one of United's best players last year. So this whole he's an upgrade from McTominay, but they play completely different positions. So again, even I'm hearing McTominay is people 40 million. Crazy. This Premier League proven stuff is a myth as well. Overpaying for players that played in the Premier League. We've seen in Portugal, players come from Portugal and outperform players in other leagues for cheaper money. So Caicedo came for 4 million. He was one of the best players in the English Premier League last year. So English tax is real, and it's silly. It's just the nature of the game. And I get inflation. The fees are gonna be higher, but to tell me that Ronaldo went for what 80 million or 90 million pounds all those years ago, and Declan Rice is a 100 million pound player, never in a million years. Never. Even with inflation, never in a million years. And Premier League proven, it's a myth, man. It's been debunked too many times. Then the best players to ever play in the Premier League, in my opinion, they weren't Premier League proven. Aguero, another one, not Premier League proven. David Silva, another one, not Premier League proven. So, yeah, man. English tax is real. Premier League proven. That shit's a myth. This is the Unapologetic Gent. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll keep giving you guys videos. Love always, and I'm out.